So we will start with transactions, student transactions, how they work, how they are, and how can we test them in our local machine. So let's suppose you are doing a transaction inside two tables in Spring in MySQL, right? So at that time, if the data is going to one table and then it needs to go into second table, so it is a kind of transactions, right? So let's suppose you have a users table and you have an address table, and after creating the user you need to add his or his address inside the address table, right? So at that time this is a complete transaction from inserting the data into the users table and then inserting the data inside the address table. So it is a complete transaction. To maintain its automaticity, like if the either the two transactions, the both the insert fully go once, or like nothing happens inside the database. This is called transaction, right? So in that case, that is called a transaction, right? So how we do it in Spring Boot? So first we can create a Spring Boot project, and then we have created two entities. We have just created it for demo purposes, so it is not a particular use case. But yeah, the user, we have created a user with ID, name, and email, three simple fields, right? And then there is address with ID, address, and user ID. It is a one-to-many relationship with user. So user can have multiple address, but for the demo purposes, we are just like one user, one address. So we have created a DTO by which we will get the request, username, address, and email of that user. And by after these three, we have created a user controller, and in that user controller we, because we are using Spring Boot and we have a MVC architecture, so we have created service, and then we are saving that user detail. So let's go to this method of user service, right? So we are passing the user detail here. Then what we are doing, we are just taking the, it is the service, right? And we are creating it as transactional. At that transactional annotation, this is used to create this method as transactional, right? So we have created a new object of user and provide the set the data inside that user by user detail. Like we have get the name, get the email, and then set it into the user object. Then we have inserted into the database. This is our first operation, right? And this one is our second operation. But this two operation needs to be done in coordination, right? Either both should happen or nothing should happen. That is called a transition, complete transition. So user, we have created a user. After we are getting the ID of that user in database, like a user is created with the primary key of 1, then we will get the ID as 1, right? Then we are setting the address from the user detail and the user ID from this ID, right? Because this address is currently how can we say this? Currently this address is belong to this user, right? And then we are saving this address, and then we are returning the user detail, so the transaction is completed inside it. If we are not using this at the transactional, then what can be happen? User can be saved, and if there is any exception while saving the address, we would get only user inside the database, and not we will not get the address. Then this is a half transaction, which we do, which breaks the atomicity, right? And for avoid this condition, we use this as direct transaction, right? And so what we are going to do now, we just go to the same method what we are doing there. So currently we are using a Spring Boot JDBC to insert the data into the database. So we are just prepared the JDBC template, and we are inserting it inside that database. How we prepared this JDBC template, we are given the properties inside our application or tab properties like username, password. You can set your password here, the driver class name, the data source URL, and these are currently not available enabled because these used in case of Hibernate, but we are not using that, so we are not using these properties also, right? And of course, this is also not using. We can just remove this commit, and this will be done fine. Let's go with this form.xml, and we have used this JDBC, started JDBC, and other things like web connector for MySQL and Lombok dependencies, right? So after this, we can see how the service is inserting, right? So this is a insert SQL, and this key holder dot get key dot int value returning the primary key after saving the user. And when we get this user, okay, implementation, this one is the implementation which we don't use now. Let's go back to the service. Alright, service, where is the service, yeah, implementation. And for the after we are getting this ID, we are just going to see the implementation of this. This is a normal implementation. We are not doing anything for address implementation. Repository, the implementation. We are just inserting the values, right? ID will be auto generated. Let's see the schema for this. Let's see the schema. So what we are going to do, we are just going to create a table of name user, and one is for name address. So one is for name users, and what will be the first will be the ID primary key, which is auto generated. Second will be the name and not null, and third will be the email. That till now finish it. Then we will create a table addresses which we are using in the code. The first thing will be ID itself. This will be primary key and auto generated. Second would be address itself, which we are, because we need to test the transaction. So what we are going to do, we are just keep the data type limit as 10. So after giving the uh, data type after giving the string more than 10 words, it will throw an exception. So we can test our transaction thing. And the third thing will be user ID. So for which we are going to provide a relational mapping. So for that purpose, we are providing this. We can ignore this for the simplicity, but we are like providing. So what we are going to do, just to provide this foreign key of user ID and FK, right? And we are going to do it by users, user ID, and the third will be ID. Okay, apply successful. Let's see that address table by refreshing this user ID and the users. right? Now what we are going to do? We are going to test it. So we are going to provide our credential inside this. So for this I am going to provide this password, and this is my localhost password. You can use it by like which is yours. So, yeah. And now we are going to run this application. All right. So we have just removed the at the right transaction. We will see what will happen if the transactional annotation is not there. Okay, it is building. Let's go again to demo application. Run this from here. It runs successfully. Check it. Localhost. It will be 8080, and the API should be users, and we will provide it for the post because we are going to insert something. The body will be raw JSON. We are going to provide first is name. Let's suppose test. The second would be email, and then it will be, let's say, abc.com, and that will be address. So address will be test for now, tst. So it is a normal case, right? So in the normal case, what would happen? What going to be? It would, it should be inserted because there is no exception, no need of transaction, because it is not, we are not enforcing something to be transactional currently. Everything is going smoothly. So what user was created successfully. Let's see in the database, in the addresses, right? Now what we are going to do, we are going to break the code by saying address is more than 10 characters, right? So when we are going to do, we will get internal server error, right? Let's see into the database what is happening there. So we can see in user, one user is created, right? But in address there is no row added. Why? Because our code is breaking into when we are trying to save the address, right? You can see that error here. Error is saying data truncated, data too long for the column address, right? So this, by this condition, what is going, we are saying it is the automatic sorry, I forgot. So I will try on doing here. So in this case, the automaticity problem is currently here. So to avoid that, we are going to use this transaction. So either two things are going to happen or nothing. So we are going to restart for the server, and then yeah, the server is restarting, and we are going to do this again, doing the same thing, trying to break the code, and let's see what will happen. We are getting internal server error. Let's see in the database what is happening. In the database, in address nothing is there, in users also nothing is there. So this is the automatic principle is currently contained inside our code. If either the two things are happening or nothing is happening, if the exception is coming, that is transaction, the complete transaction, right? Thank you.